Get on that Raider Nation. It's your boy Dub Raider. Welcome to another episode of the Raider Nation's Weekly Wire. With me is Chris from Protect the Shield podcast. Chris, welcome, my brother. Thank you for being with us another week, giving us your vital knowledge, keeping us informed, keeping us educated on what's going on with the Raider Nation. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Another week down, man. Another week down. Deep into this free agency, man. So it's a good time to be a football fan and specifically a Raider fan.
Yeah, it seemed like it started off pretty good, but then it kind of slowed down.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'd rather take our time, pick and choose. Get the right people for the right positions and not overpay like they did some of our players that we lost, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
But I want to make a correction from last week. I had mentioned that Chris was my guest on the Raider Nation Weekly Wire. That's not the case. Chris is a co-host because this show wouldn't be a show without Chris, without his knowledge, without his input on what we inform you guys. So just wanted to make that correction for you guys. Chris is not a guest; he's a co-host. He's my dude.
Well,
so I just want to put that out there.
Hey, I appreciate it, but it's your thing, man. I'm just glad to be a part of it, man.
Glad
to be a part of it.
Take you out of the equation, and it's kind of like, hi, I'm Dub Raider. Thanks for coming. Later. You're the knowledge, man. I have the questions, you have the answers.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's why. And when I was watching the show last week, I was like, why the hell did I say that?
No,
I'm like, nah, man, that's not right. And I'm like, I gotta clarify this because I felt bad. Like all week it was just like eating at me. So I just want to clarify it, everybody.
Yeah, this is your baby. This is your baby.
The man.
I'm just here to support my guy, man. But I'll be your host, man. But you're the brain behind the creation of it.
And I appreciate you, man. I really, really appreciate you. All right, Raider Nation, let's get started.
Get it.
As we do, we started last week with a new segment called Chris's Weekly Word. This is basically kind of like a run and gun news information segment where we're going to tap on some pertinent news topics, but not really go in depth. So, and this is where Chris is going to let us know his thoughts on what's going on. And this week, what we have is basically the free agency market, right? The wins and losses that we had, the acquisitions, the releases, and we just want to get Chris's input on what he thinks of the players that we've acquired and what he thinks on the players that we've lost. We're looking at getting maybe like a grade A, B, C, D, F on the acquisition or loss, and then just a little information on the actual player himself. You ready, Chris?
Let's get it.
All right, let me get my list because it is a long one. All right, well, obviously, we already talked about Max Crosby. He was signed last week. What do you think of that signing, and obviously of Max?
Yeah, so definitely it was. I think it was great. I would give it an A. Some people had some questions about the cost, but sometimes you have to do what you got to do to keep a leader like that. Max is more than just a guy that's on the field. He's a leader on and off the field. He's a face of our organization. So that's absolutely an A, to be able to keep someone like him in our organization. So
most definitely.
Yeah, I'm hyped about that.
Yeah, I also agree with you. I think Max, not only as a player, but his leadership.
Exactly.
You can't. I don't think you could put a price on leadership. Because as we saw with, I forgot that coach's name. You could lose the locker room in an instant. And if you don't have those key position players in there that the other players are going to follow, you're going to have a tough time.
Yeah,
getting what it is that you want out of the players. So I agree with you there. Next one is Adam Butler's re-signing. What do you think of that one?
For me, that's an A. For those that haven't had a chance, make sure you guys check out, the Raider War Room, with myself, 805, and the Severe Raider. During the season, we break down film. After every game, usually on our Tuesday show, we'll break down the film of the Sunday's game. And one thing that we noticed, especially late in the season, Adam Butler popped out. That's after when Max was hurt and Christian Wilkins was hurt. Adam Butler was still out there giving it his all. I mean, he was being a leader out there. He was being double teamed. I mean, he was the one that just kept chugging along, man. That guy, when we get our full line together with Wilkins and Malcolm Kuntz coming back and Max, you're going to see a big year out of him, because teams are not going to be able to double team him.
Right.
Everybody can't be double teamed.
Right.
Look for him to have a hell of a year this year. You heard it here first.
All right. I really hadn't looked that deep into it until you guys actually were talking about it.
Yeah.
I try to catch the highlights on YouTube, but they're few and far between, because a lot of the highlights come from other people's podcasts.
Right.
So I try to watch as many as I can, but unfortunately, got to work, got to be a dad, got to be a husband. So try to get in whenever I can. But cool, Adam Butler. Next, Malcolm Kuntz.
Man, Malcolm Kuntz, man, that's another A for me. Everyone who again knows me and follows me, I've always liked Malcolm Kuntz. I was a guy that has always been big on him. I just think he needed his opportunity. Malcolm Kuntz, if people remember, last year before the season started, everybody was talking about how he was going to be the guy that's going to have a huge year. You heard that from Max Crosby. You heard that from AP. You heard that from Marvin Lewis. You heard that from Coach Rob Ryan. Everybody was excited about what he was going to do this year or last year. And unfortunately, he had that injury, a non-contact injury a couple days before the opener. We got him for, a 12 million for 1 year. It's a prove it deal. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's going to give him an opportunity he's going to be super motivated. He's going to, again, be one of those guys that you can't double team everyone. Of course, you're going to double team Max. You're going to have to probably double team Wilkins as well.
Right.
Him and Adam Butler are going to show out this year. As long as they stay healthy, I love the move.
Now, let me play devil's advocate here, because obviously when Derek Carr was our quarterback, he was in the beginning of his career, he was playing amazing. He was playing balls out, did his whole Superman moves and everything.
Yeah.
But then he got hurt.
Yeah.
Right? He got his leg broke.
Yeah.
And when he came back, he came back still as a good quarterback, but he had that hesitation.
Yeah.
For being hurt. Do you think that would happen in this situation?
I don't, because for one, I think it's a different position. Like when you're talking about a quarterback, you have to be focused on down the field. So there's just a lot going on.
Right.
Whereas when you're a quarterback and you can't really look at everything, you get a little antsy when someone's around.
Right.
Carson Palmer was like that when he first got hurt for the Bengals. So it's just hard. But like when you're like a defensive player where your only mission is like go get that quarterback or just beat the guy in front of me, you're more aware of your body, your surroundings. Quarterbacks is tough because you got to look down the field, try to find an open man, and that knee is by it. Like you just get scared.
Right.
So it's a quarterback's a different situation. I think someone like Kuntz, who's been fired up, been working out hard, been very motivated to get in the best shape as possible. I think we're going to see a true motivated maniac, and I'm excited to see it.
All right. Sounds good to me, my brother. All right. Next, we signed safety Jeremy Chin. What do you think of that one?
Jeremy Chin, I would give that a B. Yeah, we'll say a B minus or so. I think it's a great move. I just can't put it up there to the A range because it's it's a B. Still a good move. The reason I like that move so much is we lost Trayvon Moorick. which a lot of us love. I love Trayvon Morgan. I love seeing Trayvon getting better throughout the years. He progressed. However, Jeremy Chin is a hitter. You know, he gets to the ball. You know, he's caused some turnovers. He's just a good presence back there. And he's $9 million cheaper than Trayvon Morgan.
Right. The money.
Trayvon is not $9 million better than Chin. So, you know, I definitely think that, you know, it was a great pickup, you know, very cost effective, very, you know, it's a good way of managing your money. I love the pick, honestly.
Excellent. Okay, next we got Lonnie Johnson Jr. What do you think of him?
Yeah, so Lonnie's cool. You know, I would give him a C. You know, because Lonnie, he has some flexibility. You know, he plays a lot of safety. You know, he'll be someone that'll play a lot of special teams. But he's also played some corner as well. So he gives us some depth in, you know, a good pick. You know, I won't say it's going to move. It's not going to move the needle in any way. But, you know, you get a guy that's very athletic, you know, the guy that can contribute on special teams.
So he seems more of like a depth position, more as like a to battle and kind of just get I guess more from the actual starter, just in case if the starter isn't up to par, you know, there's somebody that's at least adequate enough to fill the position, I'm assuming.
Yeah, he's a depth piece. I mean, he's good enough to, you know, he'll come into training camp in shape, ready to play. You know, whether it's Palomal or whoever, you know, they're going to have to compete. Pete Carroll's all about competing. So, you know, you mess around and come in out of shape or whatever, Lonnie could steal some of your reps. So, again, as Raider Nation, we don't want that, of course. But, you know, I think that, you know, he's going to be a good depth piece. And, you know, like I said, I give it a C rating.
All right. Next, we have Landon Roberts, linebacker.
I'm excited about him. I'm excited about him. And I know a lot of people were very upset with the Robert Spillane departure. It hurt. Even me, because I didn't see that coming. I really thought we were going to retain Spillane. But then I had to really take a step back, give me a second to really check out Roberts and see what kind of player he was. When you really look at the film on him, he reminds you a lot of Robert Spillane. Right. The guy's a run stopper. He's a thumper. He's actually more athletic than Spillane. And again, I know you never want to lose a quarterback of your defense. You never want to lose a guy who has a green dot. You know, for those that don't know, the green dot, that's a guy that can that communicates directly with the coordinator. You know, you can, you know, talk back and forth. But what I always want to remind everyone is a few years ago, we had a linebacker by the name of Denzel Perryman. If you guys remember, Denzel Perryman was coming. I think he led the league in tackles, and I think he came off a year where he was, I think he went to the Pro Bowl. He was selected to a Pro Bowl. We ended up losing him, I think, to the Chargers, I want to say.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think we lost him to the Chargers in free agency, and people lost their mind. What are we going to do? How are we going to just let a Pro Bowl linebacker leave? How are we going to get over this? Well, the way we got over this was in free agency, we found a linebacker out of the Steelers by the name of Robert Spillane, who was under the radar. People didn't really know about, but, you know, the Steelers really liked him. They were high on him. He was able to, you know, keep some, you know, he was able to win and earn his reps over there. Right. This guy is coming to us well coached. He played under Rod Mayo in the Patriots, so he's well coached. He was there for about 4 years, and then he spent a few years in Pittsburgh. Again, Pittsburgh always is well coached on the defensive side of the ball.
Especially defense.
Exactly. So we got a guy that's going to be well coached, who is actually coming to us well more seasoned and well more accomplished than Robert Spillane did when he came to us. He is just untapped, man. He's untapped. I'm excited about him. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be Robert Spillane. I don't want to put that on him, but I have high expectations for him.
All right.
Wait, did I give a grade for that? Let's say A minus. We'll say A minus.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's definitely good. I'm definitely gonna look more into him because I didn't really know much about him.
Yeah.
Until I heard about the signing, and I did a little research, but now that you mentioned that, I had heard that there was a lot of comparisons to Spillane when he first came to the Raiders.
Yeah.
So hopefully.
And then on top of that, just like Morick, he's $9 million cheaper than Spillane.
There it is. Yep.
That's what people got to realize. Between those two players, between Spillane and Morick, we're saving $18 million.
Yep. That's a lot of depth or a nice starter, man.
That is a starter. That is a star. That's a true star. $18 million, that's a true star that we can get.
Yeah,
based
definitely.
off of those, so that's what I'm saying. We just got to just relax and let everything play out.
All right. So let me see. Now we have cornerback Eric Stokes.
Eric Stokes. I'll give him like a C plus. Just because coming out of college, he was a very he had a lot of potential. I mean, he was a first round pick. A lot of speed. I think he's a 4.25 40 guy, so very fast.
So
very
he's
athletic.
an Al Davis pick.
Oh yeah. Oh, Al would have loved him. Al would have loved him for sure. So so he's a guy that's going to give some depth.
Okay.
I believe he can play inside and out, if I remember correctly. But anyway, I just think you can never have too many, fast guys like that, because you got to remember Jacorian Bennett. He's like a 4.2, 4.3 guy. Now we got Stokes, 4.2.
And then he's a big dude, right?
Who? Stokes?
Stokes, yeah.
I don't think he's super big. He's not super. I mean, he has some good size on him, but he's not like a super long 6'2" guy. I think he's about 6 foot or so.
Right.
Yeah.
But usually when you talk about the DBs, they tend to be smaller because they're faster.
Yeah. No, he's a decent size, but he had some injuries. Like when he first came out, he started quite a bit. But then, the injuries kind of got to him. But I think, he's just one of those guys where it was low risk. It could be a high reward. So
gotcha. And then also the money's good as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're barely paying him anything. So
yeah, that's what I've been noticing with all these acquisitions, that
we're not overpaying nobody.
A lot of prove it deals. They're not flying off the cuff and just trying to give millions to just any player because of their name.
Go earn it.
Yeah, definitely. They are definitely doing a good job. And then lastly, we got Raheem Mostert, running back. We got him from, I believe, the Dolphins.
Yeah, Miami. So Mostert, he's getting up there in age. I think he's probably about 32, 33 years old. But he's basically 1 year removed from having a phenomenal year. I think he had 21. Yeah, he had 21 touchdowns the year before last or so. He's very explosive. He's one of the fastest running backs in the NFL. He's a home run hitter. He can catch the ball out the backfield. He's going to be great for, Chip Kelly's system. I'm going to give that, I'll give that a B minus. Because the only thing is he does have injury issues.
Right.
But again, I want to put it in the B range because $2.1 million, man.
Yeah.
For a guy that's going to get a lot of reps at running back. I'm not sure what we're going to do in the draft, but he's a guy that if he's healthy, he could be our day one starter and there wouldn't be no issue with it, So, having your starting running back, make $2.1 million. Come on.
Right. No, and then obviously coming from, the running back group that we had.
Oh yeah.
This is definitely an upgrade.
Oh yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
So,
because
I think the same, that he's definitely an improvement.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to see more from the actual draft.
Yeah.
To complement or to be our future running backs.
For sure.
But I think he's good enough for now.
Yeah, he's good enough for now. And again, like I said, he's that home run threat that we haven't had since. I can't even say. I don't even know who the last real home run threat we really had. Even Jacobs wasn't a home run guy. It's almost, I might have to go back to like McFadden. McFadden, like that type of home run threat where you pitch him the ball, he make a guy miss, he's going to the house. So.
Oh yeah, I remember those days.
Man, those were good days, man.
Yes, they were. Well, those were all the signings, the new acquisitions, or the re-signings. Now comes the sad part.
Yeah,
is our losses.
Yeah,
like you mentioned earlier, Robert Spillane to the Patriots. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that was tough, man. That was tough. And again, it kind of goes hand in hand with about Robert. I really liked him. I really did.
Yes.
Leader, fan favorite. He was like the lunch pail guy, blue collar. But I respect him. Going back with Josh McDaniels, going with Mike Vrabel. He went and got the money. You can't be mad at that. You can't be mad at that. He just had his daughter, his first daughter. He went and did what's best for him and his family, and I salute him. It does hurt, but I think we're in good hands though.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a business. They're employees.
Exactly.
And they got to do what they got to do for their family and for their future.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, they don't have a 30-year career in this.
Right.
It's a few years and you're done.
Yeah.
So you gotta maximize the amount of money you get in that short period of time.
Yeah.
So that loss, it definitely hurt. With everything that was being talked about him and everybody thinking that he was going to get re-signed and being the great leader that he was, and just a great fit for the Raider organization.
Yeah.
And the Raider Nation loved him. I thought he was a shoo-in.
Oh,
but
yeah.
At the end of the day, money talks. Yeah. And fortunately and unfortunately, our top brass, they didn't want to spend too much,
right?
Or more than they should. Which I believe. What team did he go to?
Oh, he went to Patriots.
To the Patriots. Yeah, that's right. And they paid, I believe, a little bit over what was his expected asking, right?
Yeah, because they paid him about $12 million.
Right.
So that was
it was definitely sad to see him go.
Oh yeah.
Another one,
for sure.
Like you mentioned earlier, Trayvon Morg.
Yeah.
And again, he got the bag.
Yeah, and that's what it is, man. Trayvon got the bag. He's again, I really liked him. I remember coming out of college. That was a year that we drafted Alex Leatherwood in the first round, and him in the second round. But I would have been okay if we drafted Morg in the first round. I was just excited about him. We really needed a safety. I really liked his game, and it's just each year he got better. He
Right.
He played for a few different defensive coordinators, and really started coming into his own towards the last couple years. So I think he'll continue to get better. He'll be one of the better safeties in the league. He went and got the bag. I'm not mad at it. I wish him well. I'm happy for Jeremy Chin though.
Oh yeah, we just gotta roll with the punches, man. We're used to this.
We are.
We're used to this. We're resilient. It does hurt, but congratulations to him, to his new contract, and hopefully a great career.
Yeah.
Moving forward. Next, Nate Hobbs to the Packers.
Yeah. So, Nate Hobbs was a guy that, and I think I may even said it on this show when we talked about it, but Nate is a guy that I actually figured we weren't going to keep, and I actually kind of predicted him to go to the Packers because he has such a good relationship with Rich Bisaccia.
Yeah, actually, you did.
Yeah, I was
You
about to
did
say,
mention
yeah,
that.
yeah. I remember saying that because he, he always talks about how he's like a father figure to him. You know, he always speaks very highly. So when I saw him sign with the Packers, it just made sense. I'm happy for him. He actually got a little bit less money than I thought. You know, I was thinking he was gonna be able to make a little bit more on the open market, but maybe he took less to go to the Packers. But salute to him, man. I hate missing.
Definitely.
I mean, I hate losing him because I like his game. I really like the way he plays. He had some injury issues, but yeah, it's gonna sting a little bit. But I think we'll be okay.
Okay. Let me see who else we got. Divine Diablo to the Falcons.
Yeah, Diablo. He was another guy that I wasn't surprised. I figured we weren't going to bring him back. Divine's a guy that is still, I still think he's trying to figure out how to be a linebacker in the NFL. He converted from safety to linebacker. Everything you hear about him, he's a hard worker. He's a good leader. He, good in the locker room, but injuries and just still trying to figure out, be physical enough for the linebacker position. I wish him well too, but by losing him and Spillane, it was like, man, we're we really, have a empty cupboard, besides some young guys. But I wish him well, but we'll be okay.
All right. Next. Gardner Minshew to the Chiefs.
Can't believe Gardner's not with us anymore. Salute to Gardner, man. I'm not a Gardner hater like most people, so I'm not gonna sit here and crack on him. Salute to Gardner. To me, honestly, he did not play well for us. He started off pretty decent though from a statistical standpoint, but it just didn't work out. And, just like with Jimmy G and so many others, it just didn't work out. But I think he was a good teammate. Like when Aiden came in, you still saw him cheering him on, helping him out. And that's what he's supposed to. That to me, that's what a real professional does. So, I do think it's funny that he went to the Chiefs, but it is what it is. Salute to Gardner. But yeah, he's with our rival. So old booger eating Gardner. Right, now, let me stop. Salute to Gardner.
Yeah, my thing about Gardner is that he was bad with us.
Yeah,
but he always whooped our ass.
Always.
Jaguars, Indy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when I heard of his acquisition and remembering what he did to us, I'm like, you know what? We did pretty good getting them and bringing them to the team, because if he can do on the field what he did to us, we'll be all right.
Yeah,
but he didn't.
That's true. But the thing is, we didn't help him either.
Of course not.
We got rid of Josh Jacobs. We didn't give him a line.
Oh yeah.
Devontae was gone for most of the season. So it was just like, we had a bad offensive coordinator. Not saying that Gardner's gonna go anywhere else and light it up, but I was like you when we got him. I wasn't super upset. I'm like the guy's a competitor,
Right? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it just didn't work out for us, and it's like that sometimes. Just like Marcus Mariota, he's doing fine as a backup right now for the Commanders, and sometimes it works for teams, sometimes it doesn't. So.
Yeah, and in my eyes, Gardner Minshew was always a backup.
Yeah,
and he got pushed to the starting position.
Yeah,
and obviously, it goes to show that he's not a starter.
Yeah.
At least not in our scheme.
Yeah,
and then with all the injuries that we've had, and all the issues and the lack of players like you're mentioning, he wasn't the guy.
Yeah,
but wish him well. It's just funny, like you're mentioning, that he goes to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So now Patrick Mahomes got to watch his back, because he's got Gardner Minshew on his coattails.
You know what's funny though? A lot of Chiefs fans are like worried because you think about it, like no matter where Gardner's been, he somehow found his way on the field. It's like the starting quarterback always got hurt. So now they're like, oh damn.
So
we got worried. We got worried about Mahomes getting hurt for 10 weeks.
He's the Madden curse of quarterbacks, huh?
Exactly. Like, man, here we go.
All right, and lastly, I just found out we lost Clavon Chason to the Patriots as well.
Yeah.
What do you think of that one?
Yeah, another guy that I actually thought we were going to keep him because we kind of gave a chance. You know, we gave him a chance last year when we signed him. I think a lot of teams have written him off, and he actually played well. You know,
he stepped it up.
He definitely stepped it up. He put some good plays on film. So, you know, I don't remember his what he signed for. So maybe he just got a better offer. You know, I wish him well, but I ain't gonna lie. I did want to keep him. I definitely wanted to keep him because he gave us. He would have been a good rotational guy, you know, for when Kuntz didn't come in or when Kuntz was hurt. So, from my understanding, I think he feels that he could be a starter in this league, and he probably just realizes that he's not going to start with us. So he wanted to go somewhere where he could start.
No, and that's good. Good for him. You know?
Yeah, you got to understand that.
He has to do what's best for him.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, it wasn't with us.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is what it is, and more luck and more power to him, you know, wherever he lands and his career.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, brother. Well, those were all of Chris's weekly word topics. Yep. Nation, if you have any topics you want Chris to cover, hit him up, hit me up, let us know. He will definitely, he's able to answer all your questions. This man is a well of knowledge when it comes to football. You know, that's why I love having him here, you know, answering all this, giving us all this information. And, you know, yeah, so just hit us up, you know, social media, on YouTube, and anywhere, and we'll answer the questions if you have any. All right, our next topic is our new quarterback, Geno Smith. There's been a lot of talk, good, bad, and otherwise, of this acquisition. A lot of negative naysayers believe that it was a horrible pick because, you know, they don't feel that he's a starter and that he's just a journeyman quarterback and that he's not what we need. Others think that he's a great bridge quarterback, you know, that he's definitely going to make the team a lot better. You know, I think anybody can make the team a lot better at this point, but you know, but he's definitely going to make the team a lot better. He has mobility, you know, he can throw the ball, you know, he's definitely a good all-around quarterback. Now, what are your thoughts on Geno Smith as far as like stats? Is he a good fit to the Raiders? And obviously his cost, because I know there's been some numbers moved here and there between 30 and 40, you know, not necessarily locking it down. I don't know if any information has come out yet as far as, you know, how much he's going to get paid. What are your thoughts on that? Like on stats first, you know, is he good?
Yeah. So with you, I have to be honest, you know, I don't want to be up here lying and say I was super excited, you know, when I heard Geno Smith. And that's just me coming from a fan standpoint of, you know, when my Raiders play against Geno, am I scared of Geno? You know, that, and honestly, when I think about it, like, that's like, man, like, am I worried about going in this Sunday against Geno? You know, am I worried about going in this game against Mahomes? Yes. Am I worried going against Jaden Daniels? Yeah. If I'm worried about Geno, you know, so that's sometimes that's kind of how I look at it. Geno is growing on me, you know, and the idea of having him is growing on me. Geno is very accurate, which that's what we need. You know, if a lot of times last year, our offense would have been so much better if we could have just threw the ball accurately. You know, like our guys was open. We just couldn't get the ball from A to Z accurately, you know. So Geno is an accurate quarterback. He has good arm talent. He can make all the throws. Geno's getting up there in age. So therefore, you got to think Geno's going to, in my mind, be like a bridge quarterback. But then, we did give up draft capital. We gave up a 3rd-round pick. And then they're talking about we're going to extend him. So then it's like, I don't know if that's really considered a bridge anymore. It's almost like, he's going to be the quarterback of at least our immediate future. So I'm okay with it. I'm anxious to see kind of what the numbers look like. They're saying anywhere between 40, 45, possibly more. I'm not sure. So we'll see what that looks like. But, I'm not going to say I'm doing backflips over Geno, but I'm not going to say I'm super pissed off either.
Now, let me ask you, because obviously our offensive line wasn't too good last year.
Yeah.
Not bad, but not too good. Do you think with the existing offensive line that we currently have, not including, whoever we're going to draft, do you think he will succeed or at least be good enough to get us to compete?
Yeah, because he actually had some pretty great numbers last year with the worst offensive line. Believe it or not, the Seahawks had a worse line than us. So, and he was able to make it happen, even though he did have, a good 3 set of receivers over there.
Right.
But he didn't have a Brock Bowers.
Right.
So,
right.
I think the thing is, with someone like him, we can always be in a game. Okay. He's gonna make defenses respect us. Teams aren't going to be able to they're gonna have to respect his arm. I think with Minshew, a lot of teams didn't respect his arm. Same with Jimmy G, the year before. So defensive coordinators have to game plan for Geno throwing that ball.
Okay. And do you feel he is a good fit for us, or is it going to be a work in progress?
Geno's very smart though. He understands the game. He's a student of the game. I think the mesh between him and Chip Kelly could go pretty well. Chip Kelly has had success with a lot of different type of quarterbacks. So he's had success with the Marcus Mariotas, the more mobile guys, but he's also had success with, guys that can truly just throw the rock as well. So I think it can work. I do think it can work. Again, I'm not going to sit here and promise that, he's going to, have a Pro Bowl type season, but I think that he's going to keep us in games, and I think that, he'll make the plays when needed.
Okay. Yeah, because that's like, for me personally, I'm neither for nor against him.
Right.
Because I've heard good things, I've heard bad things, so I can't really make a decision on how I feel about him, because I personally haven't focused on his play.
Right.
I've just heard from highlights and what other news avenues and social media. So I'm kind of in the middle with him and just hoping for the best. Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. Because based on our schedule from last year, we definitely didn't do good in quarterback. With the whole switching around of Garner and Aiden. But hopefully he'll be at least good enough to get us close to the playoffs. Yeah. I'm not saying deep into it, but close, at least to the first round or something.
Make us competitive.
That'll be way better, and I think will motivate the Raider Nation to continue to support and not give up like a third of the way or halfway through the season, where we already see that, oh man, here we go again. It's the same old Raiders, and everybody starts doing other things, and not focusing on what the Raider organization is trying to do, and is get us another Super Bowl ring. Yeah. But have you heard anything in particular as far as because you were just mentioning that they want to extend him? Do you know or have any information of how long they want to extend him for and how much?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard different like reports, but you know, it's nothing that I would actually say, you know, that's solidified. So, you know, to be honest, I'm just kind of like everyone else, just kind of, you know, a wait and see approach. Hopefully, we'll find out pretty soon. You know, what they decide to do from an extension standpoint. So we'll see, and it's, you know, one thing I will say as far as Geno goes, like I'm like you, it's like, you know, I didn't get super pumped, but, you know, I'm not pissed off either. But I will say he's growing on me. And one thing that kind of helped me kind of feel better about it is listening to Max Crosby talk about how he felt when we signed Geno. And you think about someone like Max, like this is a guy that's, you know, that's on the battlefield, that faces quarterbacks, and like he knows who's dangerous and who isn't. You know, he knows way more than what we do. You know, at the end of the day, we're couch GMs. You know, so but you get someone like Max who's on the field. He knows who's a competitor and who's not. So the fact that Max was kind of pumped up about him and fired up about him, that helped me kind of be like, all right, maybe we're in better hands than I thought.
Well, here I'm gonna play devil's advocate again.
Yeah.
Do you feel that that's just promotional hype by Max Crosby, just to kind of be like, all right, you know, if let me put positive vibes out there so people will start, you know, believing in the guy?
See, I don't think Max is like that. I kind of think Max speaks his mind. I mean, he understands he's a leader of this team, but he doesn't have to go out of his way to, you know, to do that. You know, I think he truly, or just listening to him, and again, I could be wrong. It's just when I hear him talk, it seems like he's genuinely was excited. It sounds like, you know, he's all on board. You know, he's all in on them. So the fact that, you know, again, he said that, it holds weight to me.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, let's hope for the best.
That's all we can do, man. And just like I was telling my buddy, man, it's like, you know, for so long, I was always just super optimistic about everything, where someone could maybe say Chris is sometimes delusional about when it comes to the Raiders. Because we're going to win 12 games this year, 14 games. Like, from now on, like, my optimism has to be earned. So
Definitely.
You know, like I'm at just like you said, the wait and see phase. You know, certain things make me a little bit more excited than others, but my optimism is going to be earned from now on. We'll wait and see. You know, I hope everything goes well, but I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna have super high expectations until the Raiders give me a reason to have them.
Definitely. You know, for so many years as a Raider fan, you know, I always fell for the hype.
Yeah.
Oh man, we got this player. That's it.
That's what we do.
We're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to the Super Bowl
every year.
Or we're going to make playoffs.
Every year.
We got this other player. Oh, we got this. We got that. We did this. You know, and then the same old same, and it gets tiring, man.
It does.
So it's kind of like, now, you know what? No more hype.
No.
You know, no more excitement. Now prove it.
Prove it.
You got to prove it to me, because at the end of the day, these players come and go with the bag, no matter what. If they win or if they lose, they still get their millions.
Exactly.
Or hundreds of thousands, depending on, you know, who they are. What do we get? We just get stress and anger.
That's it, man.
And I'm like, you know what? It's not worth it.
Gray hairs in my beard, man. You know?
Man, look at mine.
Yeah, man.
I'm like, nah, man, that's it. You know, I'm too old to be so grumpy because of football. You know, this is something I enjoy. This is something that I'm passionate about, that I love. And I am not going to let them affect me personally anymore. Yeah. Now it's going to be like, you know what? Show me that you want to go where we want to go.
Exactly.
You know, so, you know, just welcome to Geno Smith, man. You know, I hope for a great season. I hope for our team to turn it around and show the Raider Nation that, you know, we need to put our butts in those seats, that we need to support this team, you know, and not make our games a vacation spot for the opposing team.
Yeah.
Passing game. That was their longest play of the day so far in the NFL. Still a home run hitter. Smith still going. Geno in. Smith is suddenly rolling. Smith has a man. Thibodeau coming with pressure. Smith steps up. Now fires. Wide open man. Looking that way. Throwing that way. Smith under pressure. Steps up. Throws back. Smith steps up. Takes that shot to the end zone. Smith goes deep. And Smith throws, and it's caught!
Smith scans the field and now runs, and Geno Smith with speed, sliding with it to throw. Smith takes off. Geno Smith, end zone ahead!
Leads, steps, throws, open man, it's Metcalf, it's a first down.
Geno Smith looking to go to work, throwing it downfield.
All right, brother. The next topic. We heard not last year, the year before last, about the Patriot way. How when McDumbass came to the Raiders, he started bringing in players and coaches and janitors and everybody from the freaking Patriots. Now the talk has been of something similar happening with Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. What do you feel that that's actually occurring? And if so, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I don't know why people would say that. I mean, because no matter what, any coach that comes in, you want to bring in your own guys, Right. And I think it was just so abundant with McDaniels just because, as a collective, none of us like the Patriots. So it just felt weird. But, any guy that comes in, as a coach, they're going to bring his people in. When Reggie McKenzie came in, he brought kind of like that Packers way of
right.
of like that mindset. And, I'm not going to say that because honestly, if you think back, Pete Carroll, he could have brought in some true Seahawks people, but he didn't. Like he went and got Chip Kelly from Ohio State.
Right.
He kept our defensive guy that was already in place.
Right.
So it's like he could have overhauled all that stuff and brought in guys that he worked with before. So he didn't necessarily do that. I think that he's kind of going by who's a good fit, and how can I put the best staff available. And then also with players too, I think that, he wanted a quarterback that he's familiar with, but, like he didn't go get DK Metcalf or he didn't, I don't know if he's going to get Lockett or not, but, I think he's really looking out there and saying, hey, who are the best players we can get for a reasonable amount? Who's the best staff I can get that can develop these players? And I think he's looking at it that way.
Yeah, I think he did obviously a little bit, but not like again like McDumbass did.
Yeah,
And I personally don't see that as being an issue when it comes from a Super Bowl caliber team.
Exactly.
Like the Patriots. Obviously, they have a million Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll is obviously a championship caliber coach.
Yeah.
So if he wants to bring in his people, I think that's fine. Reason being is because he's proved in the past that he could win with the people that he chooses.
Absolutely.
Now if we would hire somebody from like the Jaguars and he starts bringing in their people,
yeah, but like, what are we doing?
I'd be worried.
Yeah,
right?
what are we doing? You guys look like we do.
I'd be worried. But when these individuals that have these historic records in other teams and even other leagues like college and whatnot, I don't see the problem.
Yeah.
Especially when they're trying to make our team better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it just seems like they're making a big deal out of nothing.
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of to create news because there wasn't that much to talk about. So, it's like, oh, well, let's talk about this.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But I definitely think that, whatever the coach wants, whatever the coach believes is going to make the existing team better, go for it.
And plus you want, you want guys around you that you trust as well, especially like from a coaching staff standpoint. Because the best coaches, they're not necessarily micromanagers. Like, he's like, okay, hey, I'm gonna hire you for this position, and I am going to let you do it, and I'm gonna trust that you're doing what you say you're doing. So, you always, trust but verify, but you still, want to hire a team around you that you trust. And a lot of times you bring guys that you worked with before. That's just how it works in any industry.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because like, here's a perfect example. You being here, it's not because I knew you. Obviously, knowing you, is great. But I also would watch your shows.
Right.
I'd listen to what you had to say. So that knowledge is definitely something that attracted me to asking you to do the show.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go call Wi-Fi Willie, be like, hey, Willie, can you join my show? Because he's popular.
Yeah.
I don't think he has the knowledge that you do. I think he just regurgitates what he hears.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that particular instance, it's more about who you know and what you know about them and how well they're gonna fit the situation.
And what you're doing, exactly.
Yeah.
That's so
true. So
I
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And more than likely we will see it during the season.
Yeah.
We'll see the good decisions that he made, and the people that he put in place, and we'll be a winning team again soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Our last topic of today. What free agents out there that haven't been picked up do you think would be a good fit for the Raiders?
So for me, it's I think I got to look at like the receivers. There's still some receivers out there. I think Tyler Lockett would be a good fit if he hasn't already. I actually haven't been paying attention today, so by the time this airs tomorrow, hopefully nothing changed. But I do like the thought of Tyler Lockett. I'm trying to think if I want Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp kind of sounds interesting to me. I just don't know how much money he would want, and I don't know if he'd be interested. I know Stephon Diggs. I've heard some links of potentially having interest in him. He can have some attitude issues. So those are guys that I really got my eye on. I think we did well with the quarterback position. Running back, we
running backs,
we kind of addressed that. I wouldn't even mind, grabbing one more, just to have a, some good competition.
Definitely.
So, Gus Edwards, there's a few guys in there that we can look at. But yeah, so I'm the main thing I'm looking at is just more weapons for Geno. So I think anything from anybody from that recruiting class or that recruiting bunch, I'd like to see us really start looking at some true weapons for him.
How about offensive linemen? Because I really haven't heard anything on offensive line. And obviously being that we're going to have a new quarterback, we want to keep him safe and comfortable in the pocket so he's able to do what we know he can do. Do you see any offensive linemen out there that we should at least inquire about?
There's a couple guys. Becton is one of them. He's a bigger guy. Not sure how much of a fit he can be in our system, just the way our line is. But, I did like him. What's his name? Wills, Jedrick Wills from Cleveland. He's a guy that can probably potentially go in there and provide some good competition for us. So, to be honest, any of those guys that, especially from a guard standpoint, that can give some competition, I'm looking at any of them. So, I did initially say wide receiver, but, guards as well. So you're absolutely right. There's a few guys out there that I think can provide some good good depth for us and be competition to potentially start. And I still want to address it in the draft as well.
Right. Well, yeah. We have no information on who's going to draft at what position, and what they're actually looking for. As far as getting in this year's draft. So it's just basically getting the information from the players that we can potentially grab right now.
Yeah.
You were mentioning about Tyler Lockett, possibility bringing him in. Do you think he's a good number one wide receiver though? Because from my understanding, he's a good number two.
Yeah, no,
but
yeah.
We already have a number two.
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to have to get us a wide receiver one. He's just a guy that would be a good safety blanket for Geno. But okay. Yeah, no, he's not going to be the one that's really going to move the needle so much. I just like him as someone that can be just another option. Someone that, he's a good route runner. He's lost some of his speed and explosion, but he can still, route guys up. So,
right.
But yeah, if I'm looking for like a true number one that's still out there, I'm not really a big fan of Amari Cooper like that, just because he's too soft for me.
Right.
But like I said, like a Diggs, I do like Diggs. Cooper Kupp. I'm sure he still has a little bit of juice left.
But he's injury prone, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. That's the thing. He is. But sometimes, like when you're at this point in free agency, you're not necessarily dealing with the top of the top prospects.
Right.
So, some of them are going to have some baggage with them. But for what we need, Cooper Kupp, I think he could be okay because let's be real, our number one threat is going to be Brock Bowers. So we're not going to need Cooper Kupp to come out here with 10 catches a game and all that stuff, man. But just like be able to keep the defense honest. We want to have a balanced attack. So,
No, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Having Kupp, having Bowers, and then having Myers. Myers. I think it would definitely, make the defense kind of focus, not necessarily all on Brock, but just kind of like spread the focus out, and allow players to make plays.
Right.
But yeah, that definitely makes sense. And then Stefan, I've been hearing that he's not a good dude to be around. Like he has anger issues or something like that. And
he's
I
think a character. He's definitely a character.
That he might be the greatest player, but I think that kind of affects the locker room.
I agree.
When you have players like that. So I don't care how good a player is. If he brings in that negative energy, I don't think he should be part of the team.
No, you're right. No, that's definitely valid. We saw that with Antonio Brown. So
yes.
Sometimes your ability is not worth the cancer that you bring in. So
exactly. Yeah, man. So. And any other position do you think we need to address right now, or any free agents that you feel even in positions that we've already picked up?
To be honest, like I said, just shoring up the line, getting just some more offensive weapons for Geno. I really like what we did on defense. We still need to probably look at a couple linebackers still. And again, I imagine we're going to draft some, and we still have, some young guys that, are still developing as well, at linebackers. So I kind of want to see what we have with some of those guys. But yeah, I wouldn't mind getting another veteran out there. And the thing is, we're going to start seeing, some cap casualties here pretty soon. So
yes.
It's the guys that are available right now, that's not all that's going to be available. In the coming weeks, we're going to start seeing some guys get cut and things like that. So we just got to keep our ears to the streets and to pick up what's going to be a good fit for us.
Definitely. Yeah, that's definitely what we need. All right, Chris, that is all the topics for today. Let the Raider Nation know what's going on with you, my brother.
Yeah, man, just still grinding, man. Tuesdays and Sundays with my brothers, the Raider War Room. So still rocking out with them. And again, they got, a good interview coming up with former Raider Tim Johnson. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, man. But besides that, just continue to grind. And, as news comes up, we'll continue to provide, some of the latest and greatest news and give you my opinions and analysis on it.
What about your show?
Yeah, so that's it's going to be on Thursday. So that's the Shill Talk Thursday. So finally getting that up and going. I've been talking about it for a while. So
Yes.
It's just I've been so busy, man. Been so busy and got a lot kind of going on right now, whether it's with work and some personal things going on. So, but yeah, I'm excited to kind of get that going, just fully loaded and focus on getting that good content out to you guys, man. So make sure you check me out on all platforms, man. Protect the Shield podcast. And again, if you guys like talking ball, hit me up DM, man. If you guys have any questions or anything you want to debate about, hey, Chris, I saw you on Dub's show, and I didn't agree what you said about. Hey, let's debate it out, man. Tell me how you feel, man.
Definitely.
Reach out to Dub, man. If you guys have any topics that you guys want to hear me talk about, or anything in particular about the game that you don't quite understand or need clarity on, let me know. I'll be glad to talk about it.
Yeah, all the contact information is right down here.
Sweet.
All his social media links. Just hit him up, Chris. He knows a lot, and trust me, he will not steer you wrong. Let me see. As far as myself, today, Friday, the new episode of the Raider Nation Roll Call comes out.
I'm waiting for that one.
It's an interview with Power Raider.
Yeah.
I had the privilege to interview him last week. It was a great interview. We talked Raiders football, Raider Nation, tailgating, all the good stuff that comes with being a Raider fan. And before that, actually, I did a special Raider Nation Roll Call episode for MC Raiders. What is
Comedy
it? YouTube
thing?
Recording special. Yeah. It was really cool. A lot of the Raider Nation showed up. A lot of our boys, Cheeto Linus, Money Music, Heartless, Smiley. Who else was there? Obviously, MC Raider, Andy from Andy's Raider merch, Corey Raider from TNBCLA. There was a lot of Raider Nation in the house. I dropped that episode already. You guys can check it out. It was a lot of fun. MC Raiders definitely going to be coming out with a lot more material for his comedy shows. He has a couple already lined up. Check his Instagram for the dates, but check out the Raider Nation Roll Call. Again, Friday, today, well, for you guys will be tomorrow, will be out, and then we have that special episode for MC Raiders comedy show. Other than that, you'll see me here with Chris, and going to be definitely attending a couple of events during the year. More than likely going to be hitting Bakersfield for the summer kickoff. I heard that there's going to be an event in Bolsa Chica, probably going to hit that one up. And then we're going to go to Northern California, the Black Hole. The Northern California chapters are having a barbecue. We're going to go hit that up too. We're sponsoring, going to give away t-shirts to the kids.
Nice.
And and also MC Raider and I are starting Stogie Nation back up.
Nice.
Nice. We have a couple of interviews in line already. We have a company that MC Raider met with. What was her name? It's I forgot the name. I'll put the name on the screen. But we're gonna interview them, talk about their cigars. I have a couple of cigar lounges that I've been talking about to do a couple of reviews, and obviously I have some cigars that I've been sitting here waiting to smoke and review with MC Raider. We talked last week, and hopefully we'll be able to get that off the ground pretty soon.
Nice.
So check that out. We got Stogie Nation, Raider Nation Roll Call, and of course Raider Nation's Weekly Wire with Chris and myself.
You're working, Doug. You're working, baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got to, man. We've got to keep the Raider Nation energized and informed in various ways.
Yeah.
That's why I do these 3 different shows, is because with you, it's more about, the general news of Raider football.
Yep.
Raider Nation Roll Call is the Raider Nation support, which is the content creators, the super fans, the booster clubs, businesses and whatnot, that make the Raider Nation what it is. And then obviously Stogie Nation, it's, I'm a cigar aficionado.
Yeah.
MC Raider's a cigar aficionado. We like cigars. Last year it was a big thing with the Raiders, and we want to keep that going. And obviously, I know it's not a good thing to do and promote, because it is smoking, but it's a hobby.
Hey, we're all grown, man. We're all grown.
Man. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of individuals out there that want to get into the whole cigar hobby. And we want to be able to inform you to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do. And obviously I have a lot of fun. I get to hang out with Chris. I get to hang out with MC Raider. I get to hang out with, a bunch of different members of the Raider Nation. And, it's fun, man. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, Chris, thanks for being here. Raider Nation, thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, follow. Tell the Raider Nation about our shows. And remember, everything we do is for the nation, by the nation. Peace.